It's time to discuss the saltiest fighters in the UFC. These are the guys that just can't get over a loss. Maybe they're holding the grudge. And some of them actually have a good reason for being salty. Maybe someone ruined their career, or the fans aren't giving them enough credit, and they have a reason to yap about it. I shouldn't say yap. They have a reason to complain about it, or at least to bring it up. But most of these guys are salty, all right? And we're going to talk about this. We're going to get into this right now. The first guy that I'm going to add on this list is none other than Aljamain Sterling. Honestly, guys, Aljamain Sterling is almost at peak saltiness level. Now, I like Aljo, but he just cannot for the life of him give O'Malley some credit, which is crazy because Aljamain Sterling seems like a pretty reasonable guy, but for whatever reason, this loss just eats up at him every single day. And I'll give you an example. It's like every single interview that I listen to from Aljo, he says the same thing about that loss because, of course, he gets asked about it a lot. And he gives this response as if O'Malley shouldn't actually be given full credit for that win because he was rushed into the fight. I'm talking about Aljamain Sterling, that the UFC pressured him. That wasn't him at his best. He was overtrained. Listen, it'd be one thing if Aljo lost because he twisted his ankle in the first round, then he cracked his rib, and he just gassed out because he was overtrained. He lost because he made a stupid mistake. It's a game of inches, and you got cracked. All right? You shot takedowns, and you failed them. That's why you lost. He did well in the first round. O'Malley had a broken rib. Aljo's out here saying in interviews that real analysts will tell you that that isn't the best win. It was pretty fucking clean if you ask me.
I pride myself on beating people at their best all the time, never shied away from the toughest challenges. For me as a purist, I got to look at a matchup like that and go, well, was that the best version of this guy that he fought? Like, yeah, he won. I'm looking at all those X factors and like, well, what happened? What was at play here? The same way he had an injury coming in with his ribs.
This guy's acting like there's anything more to it than him getting punched in the face because he made a serious mistake. You admitted that you made a mistake. Is this not part of the fight game now? So if you get Corey Sandhagen's back, Sandhagen made a mistake. We can agree with that, but that's part of the game. It's about capitalizing off of mistakes. It's not a cheap win. He makes it sound like O'Malley, yeah, man, did he really beat me? He fucking beat you. Of course he did. Always also talking about the early stoppage. To be fair, it was a little bit of an early stoppage. I will at least admit that. I think Mark Goddard was in there. Fucking Mark Goddard, man. But it's almost as if O'Malley should be ashamed of being confident with that win, which is just nuts. And I like Aljo. I was rooting for him in this fight, but he's salty as hell about this loss. Aljo needs to get over this. He needs to just accept it. Let's get on to the next one. Conor McGregor. I'm going to put Conor in the B tier. Now, this may come as a surprise to you guys, but Conor's just salty about that Khabib loss. He really is. You could tell when people bring Khabib up, he gets mad. He gets angry. His face turns red.
A guy to come into the cage and break them back into place, the thing ballooned out.
The Nurmagomedov lost. Dustin Poirier lost.
Where's he gone, Bo? Where's he now?
He's retired.
Yeah, well, why? He went sprinting. He's gone. Shit, his jocks came fat and riding off. He done nothing in the sport. All he done in the sport.
You bring up Khabib around this guy, oh, he's getting stubborn on you. He's gritting down in his teeth and getting salty like an Irish turnip. He's a salty Irishman. And you know what? That's fucking hilarious. Conor McGregor is funny as hell when he's salty, bro. But he's a salty guy about the Khabib loss and the Dustin Poirier loss. Because he thought he was going to roll right through Dustin Poirier and fight Manny Pacquiao. And I'm talking about that rematch before he got angry and said, there was no check. Before that, he was so pissed that little old simpleton Dustin Poirier beat him in a fight. He wasn't losing to Khabib. He wasn't getting fluked by Nate Diaz at 170 pounds. This time, he was losing to little old P-head Poirier. And that stung McGregor. That stung the big ego maniac Conor. And you know what? That's cool. It makes it entertaining. Conor McGregor, when he's pissed off, is peak entertainment. But of course, his life seems pretty good. He's loaded. He's got anything the heart desires. And he's made it. He's made it. He's the big Don of the UFC, the big fat cat. So he doesn't have that much to be salty about. But when you bring up Khabib, this guy gets red-faced. I'll tell you that much. On to the next one, Tony Ferguson. We're going to put Tony in that A tier. Tony Ferguson he's been a salty Walty for ages. I mean, Tony Ferguson's on that salt and vinegar diet, and you can tell at his pre-fight press conferences when he's ranting on the Mac life and talking about, you don't know me. Man, fuck you.
So that way they can do that for somebody else. They pay it forward. It's called pay. You guys say pay it forward on 3. 1, 2, 3. Pay it forward. Y'all fucking lame. Seriously, I'm about to be done with this interview.
A little more exciting to fight the guy with Dana White privilege, right? I mean, you nailed it with him.
I don't think that shit's very funny.
No?
You do, maybe.
My baby boy. You know,
Absolutely. Hold on, I'm talking, brother.
You know, he's just pissed off at everything, and he has a reason. Because the UFC was screwing him over for a long time. They put him against Anthony Pettis when he deserved to fight Khabib. And Tony these days is just turning it up every single time he comes in on fight week. He even teamed up with the fucking saltiest man on the face of the earth, David Goggins, who's another salty man, who's so salty about life that he just runs and suffers and beats himself up day in and day out to get over it. And Tony just hates when people utter the word retirement. All right, he can't stand it. And I think that that's probably a conversation that comes up a lot with his team and his family. And he always has that chip on his shoulder, man. They go, fuck you. You got to have some respect. You freaking tell Tony to retire. He's going to smack you up on the face. Jamal the Salty Man Hill. They don't call this man Salty Mal Hill for nothing. And I'm going to put him in the S tier. You try to critique this guy, and he's pulling out the whiteboard. He's getting the chalkboard. He's writing down the X's and O's. He's writing a whole philosophical proof as to why you're wrong.
There are, you can look on the pound for pound list right now. I don't know if y'all can pull it up or whatever. So there are multiple people on this list that have lost, been knocked out and all that. You've never even seen me rock. But yet and still, I don't get that same respect. I don't get that same respect of, oh, he lost. If I was to actually lose.
He's talking about the UFC screwing him over by not putting him high on the pound for pound list. Hey, buddy, Glover was coming off of a loss to Yuri Prohaska. Glover was low on the pound for pound list. He was like number 14, number 13. Yuri beat him. You beat up the oldest version of Glover Teixeira to date that had just got softened up by Yuri Prohaska. It was a good win. It was a dominant win. Beautiful win. But you beat one old man that just retired and was coming off of a loss. And Jamal Hill's acting like he was some dominant champion. I mean, Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev were the guys that were next in line. And the only reason they weren't winning the belt is because they went to a draw. Then they called you. Then they had you fight an old man. So it's like, listen, it was a great win, but you're not going to get to the top of the pound for pound list for that one win. And Jamal Hill is just so salty towards the Alex Pereira fanboys. And I get it. I mean, I can't stand when these Pereira fans say that Jamal Hill doesn't deserve to be in the cage with Alex Pereira, as if Alex is some god and you man, how can you even look him in the eyes? Of course he deserves to be in there. Jamal Hill is excellent. I think he has a chance to beat Alex Pereira, and I cannot wait for all the Twitter wars that Jamal's going to get into with Pereira fans. I can't wait to go to the press conference, or to watch the press conference, I mean. And I just think that Jamal Hill is going to have a massive chip on his shoulder, and it's going to be entertaining. Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen is one hell of a salty wealthy. Actually, no, I'm going to put him at the C tier because, listen, even though Corey's his own guy and he's not just going to follow the sheep, he does kind of get a little bit upset when guys like O'Malley or guys like Umar Nurmagomedov are getting the clout. And he talked about it in an interview that came out today. He was saying that these guys have famous guy privilege. Maybe I should start tatting up my face. Maybe I should start hanging out with some rappers. You know, when this guy's making comments like that, you're a little bit salty.
I mean, there's famous guy leverage, you know, like I won't be around the bush. Like there's famous guy leverage. I'm trying to acquire some famous guy leverage. I think maybe I should start hanging out with rappers and, you know, like maybe making myself look less like a normal dude than what I do already, you know? So maybe that'll be my 2024, you know, like rebrand is I'll get some tattoos on my face. I'll color myself and I'll start hanging out with some rappers.
A little bit salty that the world isn't totally based on merit sometimes. And they give O'Malley the famous guy privilege because he's better for the promotion. And actually, in its own way, that is kind of merit because that creates value for the company. But I understand what his plight is. But you already know when you got Sandhagen of all people, which is like a real pure soul. Sandhagen does not care about fame. When you got Sandhagen considering getting face tattoos, that man's a little bit salty. All right, let's not deny that. He's a little bit salty, man.